Welcome, friends and fans, to another episode of GalaxyCon Live, where we are bringing the convention experience directly to you. And today, we'll be visiting the galaxy far, far away with 4 members of the Star Wars cast, and now's the time for all of you in our chat room to begin typing in your questions for them. Immediately after this session, you will have the opportunity to talk to them directly through our private chat options, as well as purchase autographs and personalized video recordings, all of which are available now at GalaxyCon.com. So without further ado, let's bring them out. First, he is a puppeteer and performer whose credits include Muppet Treasure Island, Hellboy 2, and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Today, he joins us to discuss the BB-8 and other Star Wars creatures. Please welcome Mr. Brian Herring.
Hello.
Hello. How are you today, sir, in your corner of the world?
Oh, we're very well, thank you. It's 3:30 in the afternoon, and it's kind of a dull Saturday, but it's very nice to be here.
All right, very good. We're so very glad to have you. Next, he is an actor, puppeteer, and voice artist whose roles include Nuzzle and Scratch, Muppets Most Wanted, and Dick and Dom. Today, he also joins us to discuss bringing life to BB-8 and other Star Wars characters. Please welcome Mr. Dave Chapman.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, buddy. How are you?
Good. I am well, sir. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Oh, indeed, indeed. And all is well in your corner of the world?
Yes, it is. Unlike Brian, I have sunshine. It is warm and shiny and lovely.
Hey, we'll take that as a win, absolutely. Our next guest is an amateur astromech engineer gone pro, whose handiwork can be seen throughout episodes 7, 8, and 9 and various droids, including everyone's favorite overweight glob of grease, R2-D2. Please welcome Lee Towersey.
Hi, Patty. Hi, everybody.
Hey!
How you doing?
Good. I see you brought your work home with you.
Indeed, yes, always. Yeah.
Everything is well in your part of the world?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, we've got sun. It's nice day here, so it's all good. Thank you.
Very good. And finally, our guest, continuing the work of Kenny Baker and Jimmy V with the unenviable task of being inside R2-D2 for episode 9 and other characters in Solo. Please welcome Hassan Taj.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Hello.
Hey.
Thank you. Hello.
How are you today, young man?
I'm very well, thank you. How about you guys?
Very good.
I think we're all good. We're all good. So, gentlemen, thank you all for joining us. And as a longtime Star Wars fan, thank you for doing the fine work that you all have done. Thank you for continuing this franchise. It was a querulous time among Star Wars fandom, but I believe that it moves forward. We're going forward, and your contributions have been fantastic, either creatively, performance-wise, and we'll get into those details. But I just want to say thank you all.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Patty. It was a pleasure.
I had an absolute blast. It didn't feel like
Did
work.
we all? Absolutely.
So, were all you Star Wars fans before you got involved with this professionally?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. I was 7. I was 7 in '77, so I was absolute target audience. So I was obsessed, completely obsessed. So it was an amazing thing to be part of. Yeah.
Yeah. Same deal. I was I was 5 in '77, so I went to like we all had the same kind of thing. Really, we all went to see that film and went, "Oh my god, we want to do that. That'd be a good job." And thinking, however, would that be possible? And then sometimes it works out.
Absolutely. Yeah, same here. I was 7 when New Hope came out, so I went to the cinema to see it, and I was blown away from that viewing onwards, really, and Star Wars fan ever since.
I wasn't born when the first one came out.
Okay.
Yeah. You weren't born when the Phantom Menace came out, were you?
So yeah.
Actually, was he born when the Phantom Menace came out?
Obviously it's a well-known franchise across the world. So I did watch the one that first came out in 2013 or 15, I think. And obviously Star Wars, like, it's been going on for a long time, so I watched it. I was interested in it, but I never really got interested into it fully and became a fan and understood the movie until I got the role for it. Honestly.
Okay. That's fine. And at least it's my next question. How did each of you come to be involved with Star Wars professionally?
I've been a puppeteer since the early '90s, and I worked with Neil Scanlon a couple of times, and I worked with him on a film called Prometheus, which Dave also worked on. Dave's over there on my screen. So I was talking. I rang Neil at one point, just kind of chatting away about some other bits and pieces, and I was bemoaning the state of the industry, and I'd said that I didn't have any work and I needed to find out who had the new Star Wars movie and kick his door in, and he said, well, don't do that. I quite like the door where it is. So he said, don't worry, I'll find you something. And he did. He brought me on board to be the puppeteer consultant for The Force Awakens. And that just led through to I had to help out, just kind of working out how we would put people into crazy suits and just do some puppetry tests and that kind of thing. And then I started doing tests for BB-8. And then it progressed on from there. So that was how I got involved.
So go ahead, Jade.
I was going to say, well, off the back of that, Brian had been in there doing the camera tests and stuff and figuring out how they were going to do BB-8, whether BB-8 was even possible to be done as a puppet character alongside, various other things. And Brian and Neil and I had done Prometheus, so I got that was a lot. Was that Brian? Is that the right to say Prometheus was the last thing that Neil and you and I did before Star Wars?
Yes.
Yeah. And then Brian said, "Hey, do you want to come and do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds pretty good." And then there was sort of I think it was kind of a secret. So everything's always a secret.
Kind of a secret.
Yeah, kind of a secret. Yeah, exactly. Everything's always but last time I was going on about how massive a secret everything is, and it turns and then Brian was like, "Well, you make it sound like we work for the FBI or something." But
it was huge.
It was very secret. And then they were like, "Do you want to do it?" And you're like, "Yes, of course."
So on BB-8. I'm curious, did they come to you for the design work, or did they already have the rough idea of what it was going to look like? And here's what we wanted to look like. Can you guys make it work? It was kind of like that.
It's do you want to do this, Dave, or shall I?
Yeah, no, you start again.
Okay.
It's best
Okay. So we are sitting here because of a huge team of people. We're very, very lucky that we can come along and do these things, but we are doing this entirely based on work that we have done, and that a whole team of amazing artists and technicians and designers have set out before us. So BB-8 began as he began his life as a drawing on a napkin by J.J. Abrams, literally a line drawing on a napkin, and he presented that to the guys over at Lucasfilm, a guy called Christian Altsman, who began doing designs for BB-8, and how he got it to a certain stage, and then it came over to London, and it went. I believe it initially went into the special effects department, who went to the creature department, went, do you know how we would do this? And so it went to Jake Lunt Davis, who started to do a whole bunch of other designs. And in the meantime, a gentleman called Josh Lee, who I always describe as BB-8's dad, started sort of scratching his head, and he's just got an amazing brain. And he said, well, maybe we can do this as a rod puppet. And so he mocked something up, which was about this big. Mm-hmm. And myself and Josh did a bunch of little tests against black velvet, with me wearing black, and Josh did a couple wearing black as well. So we rolled him around just to see if we could get a ball with a head on to act. So we did a couple of little tests, and from there Josh and Matt Denton went away and just extrapolated that design into 7 different versions of BB-8. So that's kind of how that all came into being, and then there was so many people that worked on it.
Sure.
And it was a massive team effort.
Yeah, so that just to add into what Brian was saying, that all those guys fabricate and create, they create the possibility, and then we are very lucky or fortunate enough to come in and perform in the movie. I mean, Matt and Josh, true to say, they've both done shots. Like Matt and Josh, both done shots with us.
Completely.
But we get to do all the fancy stuff that people always think as well, that you fabricate and build and construct the droids like Lee does. It's a different thing, but we always go, oh no, people with great big brains do this. We just come and have fun.
So essentially, you guys were the pilots.
Yeah, pretty much.
So.
I mean, we're joined by Matt as well, because there's several different versions of BB-8. Depending on the version of it, we each have different details that we perform on each different version of it. And Matt Denton will drive the remote control trike versions, which have got wheels on the back. So he'll tool those around, and Dave will run the head, and I'll do the noises and flash the lights on that particular version of it. And then there's another version which you've all seen go around at premieres, which Matt and Josh built alongside the movie. That wasn't used in the film, but Matt will drive that, or Lee will drive that out at premieres and that kind of stuff. So there's, we're a big group of guys that we all put a little bit into BB-8.
Yeah. Is there ever a point for any of the footage where maybe you guys later together, is that you or me in this scene, or is that both of us, or is that
That's a really good question, isn't it? Because you just remembered it, you Brian? I think.
I mean, I can tell which different version is in each shot. The only time I've ever been really tripped up, because I know we shot something and I wasn't sure if we shot it or did it as a reference. There's a shot where Rey is walking away and BB-8 is following her the first time they meet, and you see BB-8 following behind her, and they're walking off into the desert in the evening. And I was pretty sure that was a practical shot. And then I met the guy who animated it, and it completely fooled me. So sometimes you go, because there are digital versions of BB-8, in certain shots, and that one absolutely fooled me. But we will always put a practical version of BB-8 through the shot, so that the guys at ILM can see what the weight does in the sand, how it wobbles, how the light reflects. So there is always a practical part of everything, which is why it's very difficult to tell the difference between the different versions.
And it's also fair to say that he's a hell of a lot more, a large percentage practical than he is digital. So he gets helped out when there's just impossibilities. But for example, in oh my goodness, the first movie, Force Awakens, when Spider-Man's, he kind of goes up into the Falcon when the Falcon's flipping, and he puts out some retractable kind of cables. The retractable cables and him are digital, and then when he falls through frame, he turns into practical, and then we pick it up as it hits the ground. So that's why it's very like, is he really there? How do they do that? Because it's a really quick smoke and mirrors,
Yeah, and I remember that was one of the rallying cries in fandom, was when JJ early on said that he was going to invest or reinvest heavily in bringing practical effects back to Star Wars. So, and it's very nice that that the animators modeled it off your performances.
Yeah,
excellent. So
they're great. They're great. There's a lot of marriages like that within Star Wars as well. The Porgs particularly were done practically, and then there's a very big marriage between digital takeover and digital Porgs and practical Porgs.
Indeed. So, Lee, you have a very interesting story about how you got involved in this. It's very much a fan's dream. Tell us how it began. Well, tell us a little bit about when you started building astromechs.
Indeed, yeah. So I started building in 2007, just as a hobby. And I was already making and driving remote control cars and boats and planes, and I wanted a new, bigger challenge. And it ended up being an R2-D2. So two years later, 2009, I finished my R2-D2 build. My wife thought I was crazy at the time, and it's actually now black and white. It's that one there. That's my first build. And yeah, so because I finished my R2-D2, it was one of the few in the UK at the time. I was kind of on the radar for Lucasfilm. I used to do promotional events for them and what have you. And then Oliver Steeples, a fellow builder here in the UK, he just was at a Comic-Con and cheekily went up to Kathleen Kennedy and said, I hear you're bringing new Star Wars films out. Surely we're the guys to build the R2-D2s. And literally 3 months later, he got the phone call for what turned out to be part of the production team. And they were visiting his house just to make sure, if this guy was real and, what he's saying is true. And he had all his droids at home. And he thankfully called me and asked me to give him a hand and come along for a chat at Pinewood Studios. And after a couple of meetings, we walked away with the job offer. So it was crazy. Unbelievable. Brian and Dave use the words lucky. I was very lucky. I get it. But, everybody there, we all feel very lucky. And yeah, it's true. This is a dream come true, as a fan turned employee to Lucasfilm. Yeah, wow. It doesn't get much better than that. And I've been fortunate enough to stay there ever since as well and work on all the films since The Force Awakens.
So before you went pro, your first build was a straight up R2-D2?
Yep.
Okay, yep. What was the second one?
So the second one was the black and silver one.
Okay.
C2B5, which is a colour I designed for Rogue One. And because I designed it for Rogue One, I had to make my own. So that's what I've done. And then the new R2-D2 here, that's my latest build. That's something I've been working on, not quite finished yet. And then we've got the track droid here. So it's back to front to me. So the track droid, that was in Solo. Jake Lunt, the guy that did a lot of the design work for BB-8, he came up with that design for Rogue One initially. And I liked the droids so much, I built them for the film. I built 3 in the end for Solo. They were mainly seen in Solo. And I liked the droids so much, I built one for myself again. So I've got all sorts of builds going on here. It doesn't stop. I'm working at Pinewood building droids and thankfully operating them on set as well. And then I come home and do the same thing. So during lockdown, it's been a dream. That's pretty much all I've been doing.
the astromech design is a pretty basic idea. What's the most challenging part about, even if you want to do a reproduction of an existing character or just your own twist on it? What's the most challenging bit about building an astromech?
The most challenging bit is finding the time. It's very time consuming. You know, I was very lucky. I've got a very understanding wife that I would disappear into the workshop every evening when I had a full-time job and building my own, and it's very time consuming. But as far as the actual build itself is concerned, electronics are quite daunting. They can be quite tricky because even though I was used to building remote control cars, you've got a bigger, heavier thing to move around. So, you know, you've got to be quite aware of safety as well, because it's quite a big thing to drive into someone if you're at an event. You know, it can be quite dangerous. So it's getting that right that can be quite daunting. So, yeah, that's what I find probably the hardest.
And speaking of daunting, some of us got to puppeteer it from the outside, some of us got to build it, but one of our guests had to actually get inside one of these things. How did this come about for you, Hassan? Can you hear us?
Hassan?
Uh-oh.
Can you hear us, Hassan?
Oh, he
lost him.
Okay, he'll be back. He'll reload and refresh.
Yep.
All right, I'll get that answer after that. Let me ask you this final question for you guys. Actually, my second and final question. What's it like seeing these characters that you've helped bring life to? Oh, he's back. Hassan, can you hear us now?
Yes, yeah. Ooh.
Okay, cool. All right.
Hey.
Cool. Good to have you back. No, I just want to know. So, where did this begin for you professionally? How did you get the role of being a creature and droid performer?
Me, my question.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, as you can see, I'm a dwarf person, so I usually go around helping organizations like myself and some charities in raising funds for them. The woman that helps run this organization starred in the first couple of Star Wars movies, the originals. She did the Ewoks with Warwick Davis. Her and Warwick Davis are very close friends. And then obviously because I help with the charity work and help with the organization, she then offered me a job. And then she messaged Warwick Davis, and then the next day I was told to send my height to him and all my other structural features and things. So I did that, and then he then told me to come into Palmer Studios, and that was it. I got a job for a droid.
Did they tell you up front what the role was going to be, or they were just looking for character performers or anything like that, or was it flat out? Oh, we need somebody as R2-D2.
Really at the start, it was I wasn't for Solo. I wasn't told it was a Star Wars movie. I was just told to do a droid. So I did a droid. So obviously, as I progressed, I did a couple of droids in that movie, and then I was called for the next movie, the Star Wars one. I wasn't told if it was R2-D2.
Till you got that call.
He's frozen again.
Oh, he's frozen.
Oh no.
Jarrett. We'll give him.
There he goes.
Oh, he goes. He's back.
Okay, Sam, we can see you.
Yeah, we can see you. We hear you now.
Okay, cool, thanks. So then I was told. Then R2 was literally on the side, and I was on set on that day, and I was just told to jump into him. So that's what I did, and that was it, really.
And the rest is Star Wars history.
You were in for another character at the time, weren't you, Hassan?
Yeah, I was in for the bug flies. That was the first creature I ever performed in my whole life. So yeah.
It's cool. So my final question to all of you: what's been your favorite memory out of all this Star Wars experience?
Brian, you got to go first.
I've got
give us time to think.
Yeah,
exactly.
I've got. Sorry, what's that?
Give us time to think, Brian.
No problem.
Dave and I were up on the ship on the Falcon when Chewie We're Home happened, and that was just something else. I did that was just such a big moment, because it was just so great to see Harrison Ford in that set with his big hairy friend, and so that was pretty cool. We did have a day very early on. We started filming The Force Awakens in Abu Dhabi, and we were out in just ridiculous heat. It was completely insane how hot it was. I'd never been that hot in my life, and I was wearing a green nylon onesie, which is never a lot of fun at the best of times. But we just done the run, as I recall it. We just done the run where the original shot you saw, the first shot you saw in the trailer, it was of BB-8 ever, of him hammering through the desert, which everybody swore was CGI, but it was actually me running like stink behind the camera car, and Dave being strapped to the back, bouncing about, doing the left, right, and the heads. And so we'd finished that, and I was very hot and sweaty, and we just wandered off, and I heard this weird noise, and I couldn't work out what it was, and I heard it again, and I knew what I thought it was, but it couldn't have been what I thought it was. And I checked with Dave, and he'd heard it, and then we saw like Omar Sharif coming out of the heat haze in Lawrence of Arabia, an ice cream van, just an ice cream truck coming out of nowhere. And we're like, am I hallucinating this? And it turned out that JJ had got an ice cream van for everybody, so they could all have an ice cream on a Friday. And it was just one of the most surreal experiences, but huge amounts of fun.
Please tell me it was doing a little ice cream truck jingle or something.
Yeah, that's the noise I could hear. Can you hear that, or have I gone crazy? So that was mad. And they'd actually made sure that, because Simon Pegg was out with us because he'd come out for On-Car Plot, but actually he'd also come out just to hang out because he liked it. But they bought him a cornetto. And if you know Simon Pegg's work, his movies are the Cornetto trilogy, so he had an actual cornetto was brought out especially for him. That's good. Which was quite fun.
Yeah, that was cool.
Nice.
I guess mine. There's so many. That's the thing. When Lisa
there's
time
so
to
many.
think, it's not give us time to think of what was my favorite moment. It's like there are so many. Which one do I talk about?
Star Wars is a great gig because on Friday you get free ice cream.
You get free ice cream.
Well, there was something free every Friday.
Yeah, so very different than Friday. Friday was just as a little tiny thing. Friday was Funky Friday, where Dawn, the script supervisor, would just sort of before lunch or just after lunch, she'd have basically have a disco on set, and everyone they played really super loud music, and then just
the wobble. Wasn't it? Everyone did the wobble,
and everyone did their thing, and literally we're supposed to be working, but that's Funky Friday. But my favorite thing, there's loads of them, but the desert is, funnily enough, another one with me, is because this thing of going, we're actually going to do a Star Wars movie, and then we're going to fly to Abu Dhabi, and then so it all seems like a dream, and then you get there and everything's super Star Warsy out in the outpost. What's it called? Nima Outpost.
Nima Outpost,
right, Nima Outpost, yeah. And Jakku, and you just go, wow, this is a real big deal. And then JJ did a little speech before we started, and kind of said, we've got to get this right, guys. The world is watching. Let's have fun, but let's make it great. And then you just kind of hairs on the back of the neck. You kind of like, this really is happening. Like we are making a Star Wars movie. That, I guess. Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, same here really. So many favourites. I think my favourite story changes every time because I just, whatever pops in my head. And I think for The Last Jedi, one of the scenes I shot with R2 was on the Falcon with Mark Hamill, with Luke. And it's when R2-D2 tries to convince him to come out of hiding. And he turns his head and he projects a Leia image, and and he says, "Oh, that's a cheap trick, R2." And when we shot that felt like a special moment. And sure enough, sadly, we lost Carrie towards the end of once we'd finished filming. So it was even more of a poignant moment when it appeared in the film. And we'd already shot that. That was always going to be in the film. People sometimes ask me, "Was that done after we sadly lost Carrie?" But it wasn't. It was always there. And when we shot it, that was a special moment. That's something that I knew was special at the time and means a lot to me. It's so Star Wars to me.
Awesome.
Yeah, cool.
How about you, Hassan?
Me. Like these lot said, there's so many, so you don't know which one to pick from. I think my one's got to be where me and you were talking about this the other day when I first did get into R2 on that day. R2 was hanging off this crane, you could say, in the air, and it was just off by the set. and these lot told me to jump into him, so I did that, and it was at the back where the creature department chill, you could say, when we're not on set. So everyone was there at Black Park, and he had picked me up and put me into R2, and I did the wobble, and the whole creature department cheered. So I kind of knew I was safe, and it was a proud moment as well in a way. So that had to be one of my favorite scenes. Just me being in R2 as well, and them not all appreciating it made me feel safe and appreciative as well. So yeah.
Awesome. Very good. Very good. All right. Bruce, let us know. We got some questions from the audience, so I'll ask them to roll our first one. And this comes from Rob. Did any of the actors off camera find themselves interacting with your droids like they were an actual living thing?
Yes, Rob. Yes.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's not even just the droids; it's the creatures across the board. I mean, what's fantastic about the decision that JJ took, it was a very conscious thing, as you mentioned earlier, to go practical again. And you can tell when an actor is standing in a room, like if you were to be on set in either the Canto Bight Casino, where I think we had somewhere in the region of 60 characters, creatures up on set. You can smell that. It's really strange. It's just, you walk through and you don't have I mean, obviously ILM do go in and add other things, but you see that many creatures and crazy costumes and droids and things running around, and you get a real sense of what the scene would be like. I mean, the Sabak game in the lodge in Solo was a 360 set. Once you got in that, you were in that bar with those characters. And when you would see Alden interacting with Derek Arnold, with the Six Eyes character who was playing cards with him. And so there was Matt Denton and Richard Coombs puppeteering that, and they could do crazy stuff with the eyes, and they were just treating them like they were just there, So they did very much interact with them. Yeah, they loved that. Yeah,
I found that with R2-D2, especially during the Force Awakens. The cast are coming in, especially again the new cast and the crew. They're meeting R2-D2 for the first time, so such an iconic character, and I use that as good practice. If he was powered up, I'd perform R2-D2 to whoever's gone up to him, and that was always good fun.
Yeah, I think that thing of it makes it more fun. In answer to Rob's question, everyone does, and everyone enjoys doing it. It just makes the day go quick if we have more fun with each other as opposed to and they talk to everything, don't they? Just makes it like it's like a big crazy game.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool, Rob. Thank you. That was a great one. What do we have next?
Rob.
Yeah, good question.
From Fleur. What are the main differences between making Star Wars droids come to life back then and now? Do you miss the old ways? Now,
that's for you guys.
Thanks, Hassan.
I think you guys are in the new way, though, so you might have.
We are, but because we're all Star Wars geeks. We could sort of. I mean, I won't, because Lee and Brian are probably better. Well, Lee's definitely better for it. But we know how they did it because we all love Star Wars geeks. We're all Star Wars geeks, rather. So we're aware of how things were back then, and we're aware how the technology has progressed. So from my point of view, I like it that the technology has progressed.
Well, I think the major difference is what they can do with CG, and Lee can speak to the technical ends of this, but what they can do with CG is now you can have creatures on board where you may have, like if you look at someone like Babu Frick in The Rise of Skywalker, there are 5 people immediately stacked behind that little puppet. And so they can digitally just remove it, where you couldn't do that in the 70s and 80s. And so now we're using some very, very old puppetry techniques mixed in with some new digital techniques and some incredible mechanical techniques. Where so you've got I think there were 2 people puppeteering Babu's face, and then someone else doing the hands, and then people doing his feet and his arms. So I think it was a combination between 7 and 8 people on that at any one time, and you can digitally remove those people. So you're using old techniques in the same way they would have been done way back when, but now you can have people in vision you just get rid of. So that's a great thing. That's a great way to achieve characters now. Yeah.
And it is, for me, it's all about the tech, really. The way, especially with R2 as a character hasn't changed. We have to keep it aesthetically looking the same. But what's going on inside is so different to the original builds in the 70s, because the electronics have come on leaps and bounds. And there's a YouTube video called Bad Karma, which is George Lucas on set with R2-D2 crashing into the scenery during the prequels. So even as recent as the prequels. And Neil Scanlon, our boss, called me in for a separate meeting at Pinewood and showed this video to me before I even started and said, we're not gonna have this, are we? And like confidently, I said, no, of course not. Oh God. But thankfully, again, it's a team effort. We've got a team of great guys around us with all the technology we've got and the new designs and systems. Matt Benton has got his own puppeteering system as well, which we use, which is phenomenal. So now, because of all that, yes, thanks to technology, it makes life a lot easier. There are some old techniques that are still used, but it's mainly embracing the new technology if we can, just to make life easier for us.
But also, there's a tiny coda to all that with the answer to Flirt's question is that a lot of it does still, I think you'll agree, Liam, I think everyone will agree, does still rely a lot on some of that old stuff. So we do use a lot of the old stuff. And then equally, as Brian has said, we're blessed by this ability to erase people from frame. So, the stuff that's really cool from the old days still lives on, and it's improved with that.
Well, they made a very, very conscious effort to make Chewbacca exactly the same way as they made him in 1976. They had a cast of the old head. They individually knot every hair. It was made. I think they made some tweaks on it for Solo, but he was made for Force Awakens. He was made exactly the same way they manufactured the original, because you couldn't beat that. They knitted his cowl, didn't they? They did the whole thing exactly the same way as they did back then.
Yeah,
and Junis did a really good job in the role as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely as well. So, Fleur, thank you for that. Yeah, I think the thing about science fiction, the challenge always is like, can you hide the string that's holding the flying saucer? And and the nice thing is that with this it's when CGI came out, people thought people were using it to overkill. Now what we're seeing with your works is a true integration. We're really seeing people like, okay, we'll do this practically, but now we have the option to add more layers to it. And then again, get the strings, more strings and less visible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I will add as well, because Hassan being here as well, of course, that we did keep to the old style with the two-legged R2-D2 when he's not driving around, by having a small person inside. And that was JJ's request. He wanted that for The Force Awakens, which sadly didn't happen. But then from Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, we just went old school and we had someone inside, because you do, I think, get a better performance from it. So, credit to Hassan for that as well. That is definitely old school, and why not?
Yes, thanks, Steve.
Hassan, what was your visibility like inside R2? If any.
You can't see now. You don't get nothing. But thankfully, Lee is in my ear. I have got a complete. So whatever he needs me to do, I just listen to Lee. He's like R2-D2's dad. So whatever needs to be done, I just do whatever Lee tells me to do, and that's it. And thanks to him, like you said, performance comes out better.
I think that gives you an advantage over the Kenny Baker years. I'm pretty sure he was kind of just okay. I'm gonna roll, count to 3, stop, and then if I hear somebody say cut, I don't even think he had it in your feet.
No,
Absolutely. So, Fleur, thank you for that. That was a great one. What do we have next? From Aaron. How much of the shaping individual personalities and actions of robots did you get to shape, and what was dictated for you through the scripts?
Oh, that's a good one. Can I do that? Can I kick off that one?
Please.
Yeah. Well, Aaron, I would say that, and I'm sure the guys will agree, is that the script does dictate everything. So it tells you what the arc of the story is, what the character's going through, and what it's got to do. And when we boil that down into its daily duties. Today BB-8 does this, today BB-8 does that. But then using that as a jumping off point, me and Brian in our department, different to Lee and Hassan, we would try and do that in the best, coolest way possible. So we have a lot of freedom to be able to say, maybe we can make that a bit funny, or maybe he could be confused here, or maybe he could. So we're given quite a lot of freedom. Would you agree, Brian? To make it, to really explore what that can be.
Yeah, I mean, we were very lucky in the fact that with The Force Awakens, we were bringing a brand new droid that had to not suck. You know, that was pretty much our remit. It was like, as Star Wars fans, I know I definitely put a lot of pressure on myself because I was fully aware that we were about to bring something in to a world or a galaxy that I adored, and I didn't want it to just be kind of eh. So Dave and myself, we got given all of the toys, all the different versions of BB-8 that Matt and Josh and the guys had built, and then we had 2 weeks in a soundstage to find BB-8's personality and work out what one did good running, which one didn't look so great going fast, did they go downstairs, can they look sad. So we had to find an entire personality for him. It's all written in the script, but we had to work out how to execute that stuff, so we had to work out if it could go downstairs, and we found out very quickly it couldn't go down normal stairs, and then they sprung that shot on us under Maz's castle, but luckily it had very big wide stairs, so we could make him work. And so we had to come up with a very fast way of how does BB-8 get downstairs? Does he enjoy it? Does he not like it? And so we got to affect his personality in that respect, to how can we make him look sad? How can we make him look happy? Because BB-8 we're fortunate because we can do things with BB-8 you can't do with R2. And because BB-8's head moves, you can make him look sad, or you can make him look surprised, or you can make him look quizzical just by cocking the head and moving the head around, whereas R2 doesn't get that luxury. And so you have to find other ways with R2 to perform that and to convey a physical performance. So we were very, very lucky. And sometimes you don't get any rehearsal, and we get very little rehearsal on set because time is constantly moving forwards. So Dave and I had to turn up there knowing BB-8's personality, and we had a shorthand, and we had to work very, very quickly because a lot of the time they would be more interested in shooting Daisy or Harrison or whoever else. So we would get a couple of goes at stuff, and that was our lot really. So we had to find his personality before we started filming.
And they're very directable. I think R2, and Chewie, all the Star Wars family, because they're all built very, very well, extremely high. They're very directable. So what Brian said is absolutely true. And we prep ourselves, we kind of know what we're doing. But equally, if the director says, "What would happen if?" then you should deliver on what would happen if. There's no kind of like, "Oh, we don't really know how that works." You have to know the A to Z of what this character can do.
That was it. Dave and I, we went away and we worked out how if you switched him off, where his button to switch him off was. It's not in the script. So we worked out that was, and JJ said, what happened if you turn him off? And we'd worked the whole thing out, and we showed it to him. So we kind of in our head canon, we knew more about BB-8 than you would maybe see in the movies.
Yeah, I had the same with JJ and Ryan Johnson. They used to come up to me and say, "What would R2 do in this circumstance? What would he do? What would happen?" And like Brian's touched on already, I'm very limited to what I can do with R2. He can turn his head left, he can turn his head right, and drive. That's unfortunately. We can do more when Hassan's in the droid because we can give him the wheel and so on. And a good example was when Carrie was in the bed and she sadly passed away during the last film. R2's at the end of the bed. And I had a conversation with JJ and Hassan, and we said, how can we make this look quite emotional? And we came up with the idea of R2 leaning forward and just being a bit more observant to what's going on. And thankfully, the JJ went with the idea. We shot it, and it worked quite nicely. It made it to the film. So yeah, we do get the opportunity, on the spot from time to time. But usually we're directed, and they know what they want.
They know what they want, but they tell you the destination, but you still got to figure out how to get there.
Exactly. Yeah. That's
Absolutely. Well, Aaron, thank you. That was a great one. And from Brad, if you had to choose a lightsaber color, what color would you choose?
Blue.
Would you say Hassan blue?
Yeah,
blue.
I'm blue. Sorry, yeah.
Do they have to be canon colors? I'm going with orange.
Okay.
If it was canon color, I'd go blue as well. But I quite like the concept of a kind of a black and red stripe. If they could do that one day, that would be great. A bit of a Darth Maul hybrid.
Yeah, I'd go blue as well, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
so,
blue.
Yeah, blue.
I thought I would love green, but when I had tried on the Force FX in the dark, the blue one, I was like, This is the one I gotta get. This is the one I gotta get. I love green, but that blue one is just too much of that now. So, Brad, thank you for that. And a reminder to our audience too: if you would like to chat with our guests like I am now, or purchase an autograph, or get a personalized recorded shout out, please head over and sign up now at GalaxyCon.com before this session is ended. We've still got plenty of time though. Let's roll another question from the droid you're looking for. Was there a particular scene that was difficult or challenging?
Ooh.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I'll jump in quickly. Sadly, it didn't make the cut, but for Force Awakens, when Daisy and BB-8 and R2 go off to H2 to go and find Luke, right at the end of the film, they actually did capture the scene to show that R2 was on the Falcon, and he drove up the ramp into the Falcon. Now, the ramp is only about an inch wider than R2's footprint, and I was hiding behind a crate off to an angle. Unfortunately, I wanted to have a bang, dead straight line of sight, ideally, but I couldn't have that. So I was hiding behind a crate off center, and we shot it about 5 times, and thankfully I made it every time. We had to sandbag. It's such a steep ramp as well that R2 was tipping back, so we had to sandbag it as well. I had a stunt man at the top of the ramp who was catching R2 once he was out of sight, because there was nowhere really to stop. So I had someone in my ear telling me when to stop, and he was just hanging on to it for dear life. And that was tricky, but sadly didn't make the cut.
Didn't somebody pay you a very nice compliment after the back of that?
Yes, yeah. After about the second take, Anthony Daniels was walking around, going up to the other crew department, and was asking who was operating R2, because he didn't know it was specifically me at the time. And they pointed me out, and he came over to me and congratulated me on the driving. Because of the bad karma video I touched on earlier on, Anthony has had years of R2 crashing into stuff, and then he witnessed that. And the icing on the cake is Neil Scanlon, my boss, was sitting next to me, making me terribly nervous while I was hiding behind these crates, with him trying to give me advice in my ear. And then when Anthony came, just the nerves went away. Then that was really sweet of him to do that.
That was great.
Who wants to go next?
I don't mind. I'll quickly go.
I
think most challenging one is one that didn't make the cut. It was in the Rise of Skywalker. It was the one right at the end where there's a scene where everyone's standing together, and obviously it was that when we were in Jordan, and it was really hot. And yeah, so the gravel as well. It was sand, wasn't it, Lee? So
yeah,
it was a bit hard because of the sand, obviously. So R2 couldn't do his movements properly, so I had to, in a way, dig a little bit deeper and use a lot more energy to get him moving a bit more. But yeah, that was the most challenging scene for me.
And it was very hot. It's hot in there anyway, isn't it?
Very hot.
Yeah. Super hot before you even get inside a creature. My one, there's quite a few as well. Again, I think Brian, we all agree that there's a lot of stuff where that's
so
great,
many.
but you do go, how are we going to do that when you read it, and then you figure everything gets figured out across the time of the shoot. Sure. But my one on the first movie it's a head thing with BB-8, and it's when John and Daisy are in the Falcon, and they're trying to fix the Falcon, and then just before Harrison and Chewbacca come on and do Chewie, we're home, and BB-8 is looking from them to, they're having an argument, so he's kind of looking at John, looking at Daisy, looking at John, looking at Daisy, looking at John, and all of that was just precision hell with tiny little remote controllers. So it's great in the film, but one of those things where you go, this is fast, can they talk slower? No, not really. But yeah, that's one of them. There's many though.
Technically, I think one of the most difficult things we did was in The Rise of Skywalker, and it is in the movie. There's a 360-degree Steadicam shot in the last battle when Naomi Aki's character and John Boyega, they're assaulting the Star Destroyer, and they come in, they run in, they say, BB-8, you're up. They run up the side of a Star Destroyer, which is raked anyway. So we're using the puppet version of BB-8, so we're pushing that in. And they run in, they have to pop. BB-8 comes in, he has to hit a mark, got to get the head over. Dave has to look straight at where it's going. We've got to be exactly the right place for the panel, which ILM will then replace, and have a CGI tool come out. They pop the lid, and the camera is constantly moving. So we've got to keep out the cruiseway. Then Naomi comes in, she takes off a prop. She has to fire that prop up. And again, you're relying on prop handling, which is very, very difficult. They're delivering lines. In the background, there are Sith troopers exploding. There are people on horseback. There are extras running at us with guns. There are lights going off. There's pyros going. Dave is having to chase behind. You're following the steady camera, right, on the monitor.
Yeah. So as the camera's running around, you're running around, running to the camera operator to stay out of frame, but equally look at what you're working on. So you're running at the same time as remote, which is another crazy thing.
And everything had to be, it was principal actors hitting their marks, hitting their lines, playing with props. We've got a very, very cumbersome BB-8 prop coming in. Dave's got to hit his eye line, explosions going on. It was proper filmmaking for me. It was real practical filmmaking, and everybody had to bring their A game to it. And we got it after a couple of goes, and I still had. There's a cut in the middle of the shot, which when I saw the film, I'm just like, that was 360, But it's just you shoot something, and then the story dictates it goes other places. But it was an amazing thing to be a part of because it was all practical. It was amazing. It was amazing.
DK. Droid, we're looking for. Thank you. That was the question we were looking for. We have time for one more, so I'll ask our producer to pull out a really good one from the pool. This one from Chen. If you guys could pitch your own droid spin-off story, what would it be?
Wow, that's tricky.
I don't know. It's the TV. It's the BB-8 and Ho TV series.
Yeah.
Hashtag make that happen.
Yeah, that's a pretty good idea. I was going to say any series where BB-8 goes around the world to discover all sorts of exciting things.
Exotic locations.
Yeah, BB-8's guide to Earth's exotic locations.
I'll jump on that bandwagon. I'll have the R2-D2 story then. We want to know where he came from, right? And what he's about.
It's funny because we do talk about these things on set, and you do because we're all Star Wars geeks as well. We love the stuff, and it was nice to see in Mandalorian, some of the characters from and in Solo and stuff when droid characters return, and that we love all that because it's just stitches back to what we fell in love with when we were kids. What's the one called in Mandalorian that looks like IG-88? What's that guy? Can you guys remember? IG something.
IG-11.
Yeah,
IG-11.
Seeing him in that, that was fantastic. So I kind of think any Star Wars droids that's already existed in the Star Wars world, I'm equally interested in all of the backgrounds and where they all came from, and I'd watch anything with it sounds crazy.
Yeah.
It's like
the ever returning medical droid.
Yeah, we love the medical droid.
We want to get rolled out and repainted and just shot on, and then I don't know if it made it into any of those films, but it's in a couple of the visual dictionaries, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where we just kept having this 2-1B droid come in. It was original color, wasn't it? Then it went yellow. Then it went black at one point for Solo, and it just destroyed.
We only have one. We just keep repainting it.
Yeah. But we love them all. That's the weird thing. Again, you just have it because they stitched back to for us our childhoods when we saw those droids for the first time. We went, wow, what an amazing design. When they come back on, we're as excited about that iconography as we were about seeing Darth Vader or whatever. It's strange.
Yeah.
Mouse droids.
Mouse droids.
I remember the first episode of New Hope, the first commercial I saw about it. I went running to my mom saying, "There's a movie coming out. It's got a gold robot." And that was in that 30-second TV commercial. Yep. That's what hooked me into it. Yeah. Wasn't all this stuff going on too? But yeah, very much so. It's interesting. I wouldn't mind seeing a Star Wars movie where there's a situation where non-biological creatures could not go, so you'd have to send in all droid characters.
A droid sort of task force,
an environment where just biological creatures couldn't exist, so you'd send in the A-team of various droids.
And you could. The thing is, that's in many other universes, that's a crazy suggestion, but with Star Wars characters, you could because they're all cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Just all the little heroes, stuff like that. So, Chen, thank you very much for that question, and. GalaxyCon viewers, this has been my time with the droid and creature performers of Star Wars, but it does not have to be yours. If you'd like to have a private chat with these gentlemen, or get a picture, or get an autograph, or a private recorded shout out, please sign up now at GalaxyCon.com. And while you're there, check out our schedule of upcoming events like this one. Gentlemen, before we go, any final words for our audience?
Thanks very much for your questions.
Thanks for your questions. Stay safe, everybody, and look after yourselves.
Stay safe.
We'll see you all in person soon, I hope.
Yeah.
Great questions, and thanks for logging on and viewing the show.
Absolutely, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure to serve you. And yes, we all look forward here at GalaxyCon. We all look forward to getting back into business. We look forward to having you live on our stages and back in front of your fans. But in the meantime, we've enjoyed having you here on the virtual stage. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to serve you. Thank you again to our audience. And bye-bye, everyone. And take care. And please keep washing those hands.
Thank you, Patty. See you guys.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.